Welcome to Tech Startup Stories, hosted by Natalie Binns. This is the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the B2B startup world. From the innovative ideas to the sleepless nights, we're diving into the good, the bad, and the ugly of building a business.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for joining me. For those that have just, Tom and I actually met at the London Tech Week last year. I was kind of wandering around aimlessly, looking to chat to anyone that would speak to me, and there you were.
I was ready to talk to those people wandering around aimlessly. That was the role I played at that show.
And you played it very well. So when I met you, you had been in business. I think you'd just been in business for sort of 12 months at that point. You've certainly been doing
Probably
it a
about right.
while.
Yeah, probably about right. Yeah, because that was about 6 months ago, and yeah, we're well, yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, we're coming up to about 20 months now. So.
Goodness, time flies when you're having fun, huh?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you started a business and you've called it BrightEvolve,
Yeah.
which obviously is a bit of a steal of your surname, Bright.
Yeah. Short of ideas at that point, I think. So.
Now, I may be getting this wrong, but as I understand it, the company really specializes in helping early stage companies or businesses help them achieve sales success, so better sales success. Is that right? How would you describe it?
Yeah, no, that's pretty much spot on, to be honest, Natalie. I think, in essence, having spent kind of 20 plus years in the B2B sales world, I realized I've always worked for kind of early stage businesses, been on a growth journey, got to the point where there's been an exit. It's always been great fun. But actually, I realized my passion was for those kind of really early stage businesses. And I had a hunch that there were several founders and early stage businesses who were passionate about their domains, passionate about their products, but didn't necessarily know the world of sales and kind of commercial growth and all those things. So really founded BrightEvolve to solve that problem and help organizations achieve that kind of path to profitable, repeatable, and scalable growth.
That sounds a lot better than the way I put it, to be honest. So I'm going to take you way back. How did you get into tech sales in the first place?
He's way back. Thank you for doing that. I've been in sales my whole career. I didn't actually go to university or anything like that. I basically just kind of fell into sales. I actually worked in selling consultancy services for about a decade when I kind of started in that space. And then in essence realized that what I really wanted to do and where I was passionate about was the tech space. And also, that's where there's a lot kind of more opportunity. When you work in the kind of consultancy space, there's certain ceilings that you can end up hitting basically from a kind of sales perspective. So I just basically went out, kind of got networked around and tried to find a job as a head of sales in the tech space. Managed to do that and actually, went from head of sales for a kind of startup based out of Shoreditch, kind of blockchain company, and did a couple of other gigs for another business, and then landed as the sales director for an edtech business, where I was for 4 years prior to starting BrightEvolve, basically.
So I'm guessing, given your history, you've sort of seen a lot of shift in how B2B kind of sales processes have changed, how buyers have changed their approach. What do you think has been the biggest shift?
I think there's been so many kind of evolutions. There's always kind of new tech and new automations being built in. I mean, keeping up with the tech side of sales is a full-time job in itself. There's all, every week I hear my clients asking me, or our clients asking me, have you heard of this tool? What about this tool? I'm like, oh, no, that's a new one to me. So constantly staying on top of that is great. I think, when I started in sales, I mean, we're talking 20 years ago, that you do cold calling, you get out to meet people face to face. We're obviously in a much more kind of virtual world now, and actually kind of just building those relationships over, online is really important. I think when you look at the tech space, and certainly when I work with our clients, having that kind of product market fit and really understanding the market you're talking to is a kind of really important piece. And it didn't always used to be the case, right? People used to be a lot more kind of open to just having a conversation and kicking the tires on what you were selling, but actually because there is so much choice out there in the tech space now, differentiating yourself and really solving a business problem is much more important. And grows ever important because there's just so much out there and people are inundated by it
I couldn't
basically.
agree
So
more.
it's always evolving.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you were working in startups, you were head of sales, VP of sales. What on earth made you take the leap into kind of starting it and building your business?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I was working in a really successful edtech business. We'd grown kind of fivefold in a matter of years. We'd navigated through the pandemic, kind of bought a couple of businesses. It was all the kind of things that a lot of people would love on their CV and would have just, really love to kind of stay in that world and build on that. I think there's something wrong with me in that, in essence, I kind of just basically got to that point and got really bored and really wanted to kind of get back into the early stage piece and work with an early stage business. But I basically just realized I'm always on that journey. I'm always at this piece where I come in when it's early stage, we set the strategy, we deliver on it. And then I find myself sat in meetings I don't want to be sat in and, doing things that all make very good business sense in a bigger organization, but just didn't float my boat. So it was kind of got to the point where, I'm nearing 40 and it was, right, let's try and if I don't do this now, I'll never do it basically. So took a bit of a hunch that there was a need out there for sales consultancy services, and thankfully that has paid off thus far.
Well, you're still very young. You had
No, thank
plenty of
you,
time.
thank you. I'm
Um,
impatient.
so when you had made that decision that you were going to take the leap, how long did you kind of work on your ideas as to what you were going to do? How long were you kind of having that itch to kind of go off and do it on your own? Was it kind of a knee-jerk reaction or something that you had thought
Yeah,
about for a while?
it's a great question. Definitely, my very nature is to be quite impulsive, so there's definitely a bit of that in it. I did a fair bit of market research. I mean, I did. I think what anybody that started a business probably has done similar. I talked to people I knew and trusted. I went out to some warm relationships and said, hey, look, if I was out offering this service, would that be of interest? I did that over a couple of weeks because I just wanted to kind of have those conversations and accelerate. And then, yeah, basically took the plunge and just went, right, I'm going to do this. I mean, I had a kind of 3 month notice period, so I knew I had time to, kind of build up that business in the background. And actually got really fortunate in that, landed something really quickly, which was, a decent kind of consulting gig, which would just help soften that blow of getting out and starting your own thing. I think probably the bigger piece, which took more consideration from me, was probably after having started out doing my consultancy piece, realizing that in a couple of months, I actually wanted to build a business. There was quite a kind of moment where do I just do this as a kind of lifestyle business and play golf once a week and, kind of really enjoy myself, or do I actually turn this into a business because I think there's a service that can be provided. And I think that was probably more the kind of really awakening moment. That was like, okay, I really want to kind of apply everything into this. So I'll be honest, there's times when I've worked 60, 70-hour weeks that I maybe think I was mad making that decision, but that's the life. That's the life we choose as founders, basically.
Indeed, indeed. And in terms of the services that you've offered, I know that since we've spoken, you've not only hired people, but you've also been building your platform. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the platform is basically just kind of grown out of something that I realized we were doing with clients. So I never had any intention of starting this business as a kind of product tech business. And I'm not a product guy. I'm not a techie. I know enough to be dangerous because I've lived in that world, but I'm not that man. But actually, what I realized was that we were working with clients, and the first thing we go through is we take them through a kind of diagnostic where we assess them against 6 pillars of growth. And we use that to help them create a kind of sales plan. And that was all done very manually. It was me doing it. It might take a couple of days for me to work through that with a client and then on my own. And initially, I just realized there's probably a more effective way to do this more efficiently. Went to see what products are out there and actually realized there was nothing out there like the service we were offering on a sales bent. So basically, Took the hard decision, kind of the core conscious decision over kind of after the first 12 months to invest all the profits that we've made back into developing a tool called Ascent, which is basically that diagnostic and that assessment, but online as an online tool where people get kind of access to a kind of online dashboard, basically. So we've been on that journey. It's kind of 9 months of development, and then we launched that in August last year. But what that's enabled us to do is we've turned something that took us a day or two into a couple of hours worth of work with our clients, meaning we can service more clients. And it's moved us to a services business that has a product. We're not yet a product led business. We're not yet, a kind of classic tech business, but we're very much on that kind of path to being, services business with a product, basically.
So in terms of your team, how many have you got sort of working with you now?
There's a team of three. And they're helping to deliver services for our clients. So a really popular service that our clients love is after they've done the diagnostic, we've helped them to create what a sales strategy could look like. And we're then testing that with some outbound sales support. So they're kind of outsourcing their sales function to us prior to recruiting one, basically, and having a team in place. So a couple of the team work on that service offering. And then also work on actually the kind of business development marketing side for BrightEvolve, and making Ascent kind of well known across the marketplace, basically. So we've basically just everything we've kind of done has been bootstrapped thus far. So every decision's kind of really has to be really carefully thought out. But everything, all the service offerings that we've got, the product is all as a direct result of what we're hearing from our clients in the support they need, basically.
So you've kind of made that choice to go bootstrapped versus going for funding. What's your kind of rationale behind that? What's your thought process?
So we've actually reached a really important inflection point in the last couple of weeks where I've now made the decision that we are going to go for funding, but only, not huge amounts, but just to accelerate and expedite the next phase of development for the product.
Hmm.
I wanted to do it bootstrapped because, to be frank, I didn't know where it would go. I think that's probably a kind of common thing with founders that have just started a business. I didn't know if the product would be successful. I didn't know, was I just kind of barking up the wrong tree? Are we just a services businesses and that all we'll ever be? But actually, we've had enough interest in the product and enough uptake and enough really useful feedback from this kind of MVP that has made me realize that we've got something and we need to accelerate development to kind of really make it the product that I want it to be and that I think our clients want it to be. And to do that, we could do it bootstrapped, if we carry on the current trajectory, but you're probably not going to get to an end product for a couple of years. And again, I'm impatient, and I think there's an opportunity there. So we're going to try and jump on that this quarter, basically.
Great. That's exciting. So in terms of your vision for the business, where do you kind of see it in the next sort of few years?
I'd really like us to be known as the sales ally for early stage businesses. We've been really fortunate to work with some incredible clients across the UK and the US. We've got a lot of our business through word of mouth and referral thus far. I just want to kind of take that brand to the next level. There's a real problem or a challenge for founders and early stage businesses around sales and commercial growth and organic growth. And I think we can really help to solve that problem. So, really kind of want to be known for that. I don't have any kind of like aspirations on the team size, etc., will grow as we need, but we certainly do. I want us to be a product-led business. I want, the product to be the kind of mainstay of the business. I want that to help service customers, whereas currently it's a really great tool that we use as part of delivering services.
Mm.
For that to kind of be a really great tool. And, selfishly, that will help build the long-term value in the business. That kind of recurring revenue piece.
Mm.
If I want to create something that leaves a real legacy, it's kind of needed basically, because otherwise, with services, you've just got to kind of pedal harder at the start of every year, which isn't really what I want to be doing. I want to kind of build something here that we can really use to scale and grow, and we can look back and be proud of, basically.
Brilliant. So if you were to kind of look back on your journey so far, what would you say has been the most surprising part of the journey?
I think one of the most pleasantly surprising pieces I found when I kind of moved from being employed into like being a founder. And I still get imposter syndrome when I call myself that, when I work with founders who've got so many great businesses, and I kind of look at them and I just sell stuff. But I think the most pleasantly surprising piece that constantly blows my mind away is just how supportive and welcoming and friendly that kind of ecosystem of other founders and other startup businesses is. I just hadn't even clicked on that being a thing, but the minute you kind of make that leap, people are literally falling over themselves to help you, to just be a kind of ear to listen to your challenges. And I think that's really great. I really love that kind of ecosystem of just these kind of entrepreneurs who just really want to help each other. So I think, yeah, that's on the surprising side of things, albeit a very pleasant surprise. That was definitely the thing that I was underestimated.
So I'm going to kind of change tact a little because I was going to ask you a different question, but related to that. But I think you've mentioned something really important, which is this imposter syndrome. And
Yeah.
I really don't think you're alone in startup founders, people that are building their business, despite years and years of experience, really credible experience, great networks. I think, there's so many people that are kind of dealing with that. But how have you kind of tackled that? How do you deal with that on a daily basis?
I don't know if I have tackled it, to be honest. I think I still get it. I talk to people. I think one of the great things when you are spending time with kind of entrepreneurs and founders, there are so many great stories, and you always meet people and you just think what they're building is the coolest thing ever. I think the thing that I have to constantly remind myself of is these people still need our help, right? So we still are providing a service and providing support that people need, and actually that's all we ever set out to achieve. I had no great aspirations to set out and invent something which nobody else had ever thought of and was going to be incredible. I think actually, as I get older and as I get more experience sitting in those rooms, there's definitely a piece where I'm just trying to take those as learning opportunities. What am I finding out from these people? What are they doing? What have they built? How did they come up with that idea? I'm so naturally inquisitive, and I think there's always something to learn from another founder and from somebody who else has been on that journey, basically. So I think a little bit of healthy imposter syndrome isn't a bad thing, because it just kind of means you're striving to, you want to be better and you want to kind of be that person. I'm not sure there'll ever be a room, nor do I think I ever want there to be a room that I'm sat in and I don't have that feeling. So, but I mean, that means you're surrounding yourself with the right people, right? So,
Yeah, absolutely. And so we talked about what has most surprised you in a positive way. What has been the scariest, most challenging? What's been the downside of kind of building your own business, especially in the current climate, which is a brave thing to do in itself?
yeah, I mean, I think the current climate's obviously a challenge, but again, let's be honest, it has been in a kind of cyclical nature for a long time. So I kind of just take that with a little bit of a pinch of salt, recognizing that makes things a little bit harder. I think, the biggest challenge I personally have is having not run a business before. I'm reasonably astute, I'm reasonably commercially switched on, but just things like kind of cash flow and financials and some of the kind of admin and all that kind of stuff just gives me a real headache and definitely causes me to be awake at night. So I think, I thankfully realized that early on and made sure I surrounded myself by people who, get that world and know that world. But I've definitely done a few things and made a few stupid decisions where I ran on and agreed to spend on something, or I've not tracked my admin or something. And your cash flow all the while when you're a startup business or early stage business, but especially when you're bootstrapping, cash flow is so important. And I think sometimes you can get caught up in the wave of, hey, I'm running a business and I need this and I need it now. But again, that's that kind of impatient, impulsive type character. And yeah, I definitely got to a point in kind of October when our sales were a little bit below where they needed to be for a few months, but our spending hadn't really slowed down. I say it's my spending hadn't really slowed down. And I was starting to commit to phase two of the product development and all these other things, and I just had to kind of put a pause to everything because I realized there was a lot of stress there, but most of that I was causing by not having kind of some decent financial management in place. So yeah, that was a wake up call for me to make sure I got surrounded by the people who are good at the bits I'm not good at, basically. And that would definitely be something I would say for any founder, just figure out those bits that you're maybe not great at and that don't necessarily have the interest in, and make sure you're getting people in that can help with that, basically.
Indeed, absolutely. And I think finance is probably a really key area for most business owners, but there are not as many business sort of founders that come from the tech world that have that
Yeah.
skill set. So it's always good to get those experts involved early on. So if you were
Yeah.
to kind of speak to Tom the day you started BrightEvolve, what advice or what insight would you give yourself to kind of almost leapfrog some of the mistakes or the challenges that you've been through, or any bit of advice that you would give yourself from the beginning?
I think of a couple of things. I think first off, if I was talking to Tom when on the day that he founded BrightEvolve, I would definitely be saying strap yourself in because you have no idea where this is about to go. I think some of the great things that I really look back on that we've done that I would definitely kind of say to repeat are there's just some things where just make a decision and stand by it. It's quite a scary thing to basically take all the profits we'd made in year one and just from our consultancy services and stuff that we know really well or I know really well and put that back into the product. But it set us off on a completely different trajectory where there's now a future that I can see, which is kind of really exciting. I think how would I leapfrog mistakes is a really great question. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. I think letting down your own kind of barriers and not being afraid to ask for help and get support. There's so many great things out there where you can, accelerator programs, incubator programs, networks. There's a load of people going on that kind of similar journey. And it probably took me about 9, 12 months to kind of really throw myself into that stuff. So I think that's been really good. I've made some really, made some big mistakes. I'd say to Palm on day one, in a couple of years when you get wowed with the idea of going for a load of awards and stroking your ego, don't do that because you'll sink a load of cash and time into it and it's not a great idea. So there's some tactical things like that I can look back on and go, yeah, that was a bit silly. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a wild ride, and I'm not sure I had any idea that was going to be the case when I a couple of years ago.
Well, I'm excited to watch the rest of your wild ride and certainly see what happens in the next few years. I'm sure it will be onwards and upwards. What do you think is going to be the kind of successes for this year? What are you expecting to kind of push out there?
I think getting this kind of next milestone of getting the funding and kind of getting the product next wave of product development under the way is great. If we can finish 2025 with the product kind of in a really great place and kind of fully ready to start rolling into 2026 with that generating some revenue on its own as a standalone product, that would be incredible. And would mean that within kind of 2.5 years, we've kind of moved and evolved to that kind of services led business. In the meantime, just want to kind of keep working with amazing clients and kind of balancing that piece around working on the business and working with our clients basically. So we over the first couple of years have helped our clients achieve kind of multi-million pound dollar growth and just want to kind of continue doing that. One of the great things about what we do is we do just get to work with so many inspirational businesses and founders, and there's something really rewarding about helping them on their own path to growth. So more of that this year. We've set ourselves some ambitious targets for growth. We grew 60% year one to year two, and I want to see kind of more growth like that for us this year. But they're big, hairy, audacious goals. So we'll see how we get on.
Well, I think the good thing is most of the people that are listening to this podcast and also the guests that we've got on this podcast, your typical clients, I guess.
Yeah.
If anyone listening wants to kind of get in touch and speak to you and kind of figure out how you can help them sell more, how can they get hold of you?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is kind of where I spend a lot of my time and live. So you can find me on LinkedIn, just Tom Bright at BrightEvolve. That should be enough to find me. If you do want to email me, I'm at tom@brightevolve.net, and our website is brightevolve.net. So yeah, any one of those manners, or just walk to a high hill and shout BrightEvolve, and I'll find you.
Wonderful. And for those people that are out there that have got ideas and not sure whether to kind of leave the safety net of a regular paycheck, regular income, what would you kind of say to those individuals?
There is no safety net. There are very few jobs with like huge tenure nowadays, with some obvious exceptions, public sector, civil service, all that kind of stuff. But realistically, there is no safety net. You never know what's kind of coming. And actually, the good news is if you do something and it doesn't work out, actually what you'll probably do is pivot and do something else. But if worst case scenario, you can always get another job. So, that was kind of the view I took was let's give it a go and see how we get on.
Love that. Love that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. It was great to speak to you today.
Yeah, thanks, Natalie.
That's it for this episode of Tech Startup Stories. Have a story you'd like us to share or a topic you'd want to cover? Reach out and we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care.